Welcome back to our newest edition of Ryanology. I'm your host, Ryanology, and thank you for tuning in. On this episode, I have an interview with a hockey coach, Mr. Cappello, about the future of the hockey team, as well as an interview with former coach and teacher, Mr. Gaspar, about a recent award he had through the school committee. Our very own DHS gym will now be named in his honor. Please take a look and enjoy. Welcome back. Today on the show, I am very fortunate to have the coach of the hockey team, Mr. Cappello. How are you today?
Very good, thanks.
And Mr. Cappello, you're known in the Dartmouth Public School system as the hockey coach and as a teacher and a font of information for everybody. But besides hockey, what is your main priority here?
So I'm the adapted phys ed teacher in the school system, which means I help students access the phys ed curriculum. I work very closely with the physical therapist, the occupational therapist, speech and language therapist, and the phys ed teachers. So I work at all the schools, so I have a caseload of about 60 students that I work with. And I help them with their overall motor skills. I help them access the curriculum. I help them get involved in extracurricular activities, whether it be unified Special Olympics or other sports or anything that's after school, from swimming to rock climbing to bowling to all those type of things. So just really trying to support the motor abilities, the motor skills of the students I work with. And
how long have you been doing that for?
This is my 31st year teaching, so it's been a while, and it's certainly it's really enjoyable for me. I've been able to see a lot of kids that I've had since they were 3-4 years old to just grow up, graduate, and off to college and then some. So yeah, it's been great. It's a great school system to work for. I work with some great people, and it's really a team approach, and working with the right people makes all the difference in the world.
And at the end of the day, after, when you're all set with that, you actually come up to the high school and you're here with some of Dartmouth's finest, the hockey team.
Yes, so the in coaching is while it's only 3-4 months out of the year, you know, you spend pretty much every month down here as much as you can with the athletes, whether they're working out. But right now, you know, we practice on a regular basis. During our season, when we're not practicing, we're watching film or in the weight room with our new weight and strength and conditioning coaches. So yeah, so we keep pretty busy, and that certainly keeps me very involved.
And how's the 2022 season looking so far?
So far so good. We're off to a decent start. You know, we're 5-3 right now. We had a big win this week against Bridgewater Raynham, which is a Division I, very strong Division I program. We've played a couple of tough teams this week. Norwell, we lost to them earlier. Last night had a tough one in a 3-2 loss to Silver Lake, but we're getting better, playing better teams, getting better, trying to get ready for the tournament. So again, our record's 5-3. We still have about 11 games left. So in that time, we hope to qualify for the tournament and just continue to improve as the season goes on.
So for that road to the tournament, how many games would you have to win to have an official spot?
So it's interesting. This year is a little bit different. In the past, you just had to have a 500 record or win your league. We no longer are in a league in hockey because it's just us and Bridgewater Raynham, so we went independent. So in 500 is a way to get in, but there's also a new system called the Power Rankings, which they rank you based on the teams you're playing, the strength of schedule. So you can actually have a sub 500 record and still get in based on who you're playing. So that's a whole nother formula that we'll try and calculate. Right now, we just try to go one day at a time, find our way in. But, you know, I feel pretty confident with the team that we have. If we can stay healthy, that we'll find our way to the tournament.
And how many students do you have on the team?
We have 24 total players in the program right now.
How would you say that they've kind of developed through starting at their freshman year to their senior year?
This is what's interesting this year. Our senior class, several of them played in 8th grade, and when they were in 8th grade, we had an 8th grade waiver because our numbers, we didn't have really big numbers for hockey. So we had to go and find some 8th grade players that were willing to participate at the high school level, which is, you know, not always easy, and, you know, for some players can be dangerous playing with kids 4 or 5 years older and bigger, stronger, faster. But we had some young players that have been here now, and they're, you know, playing 5 years in the program, which is great. And then we have a few other ones that are in their 4th year, and they've all developed over the years. They've all had a lot of success. They've made the tournament every year. We got to the finals a couple years ago, the South Finals against Hanover. So the team has definitely won a lot of games, been successful, gotten better throughout the year. So it's a good group of seniors, and there's some good leadership. So I think that's really helping us out this year.
And how does that kind of make you feel as a teacher, watching them grow up through high school
That's
and
great.
helping them?
Yeah, nothing better. And it's watching all of these players grow, whether they play a lot or they don't, just trying to help them find in their career path as well. I like to talk to a lot of them about what they're interested in college, and anything I can do, whether recommendations or share my experiences with them, or put them in contact and help them network with other teachers that maybe can help them when they're looking at where their possibility might be for college. So it's fun to see. It's fun to see these guys grow. And it's, again, when you're a freshman going to your senior year, you watch a lot of players mature, and we've seen that. And I'm very lucky to have some great assistant coaches, and Brian Rose, Derek Martin, Tyler Martin. They're great, and it's the player first all the time, and it's academics first, and those guys get that, and family first. And we certainly talk a lot about that, and hockey's just a little piece of it, but we get to teach a lot of life lessons as we go on, and playing sports to me is a huge life lesson for anyone involved.
And we at Ryanology really like to focus on almost the family value of these clubs and sports teams. So what would you do, what do you do that you kind of try and make it form more as a family, and instead of more as like just a big competition?
Yeah, it's all about team, and we stress that a lot. It's, we don't try not to be individuals on this team and working as a five-man unit when you're on the ice or even off the ice. How do we support each other in any way we can, like families do? And we talk a lot about that, how we're a family, whether someone's going through a tough time in their life or whether someone is struggling academically. I have some players, tutoring players on the team. We have, if kids need rides, younger kids, or just trying to help them out and mentor them. So, we talk a lot about that and how we help support our team. And, we try and have fun with it too. Again, it's a locker room mentality at times. And, kids like to joke around and have fun, and that's all part of the experience. But in the end, I think we're all pulling for each other, and we want what's best for each other. And I think that brings you the family atmosphere.
And luckily, they're able to carry these skills not only to hockey, but to beyond high school, to their jobs outside as well.
Yeah, developing a strong work ethic, knowing things such as being responsible and understanding your role, and all of those little pieces, the things that we talk about, and a lot of that stuff that you do in coaching and teaching. It really kind of, you want to see that carried over to the real world kind of stuff from college into working. So those are all things that we focus on a daily basis. That's
really great. And to hop back to the 2022 season, how would you say that COVID has affected it so far?
So it's certainly not easy. We've had a pause in the season for a little bit. We've had a few students who had to go through their COVID protocol and their quarantine. So missing players back and forth and lineups being juggled. It happens. But we have other guys step up in those situations. It's something we've talked about, trying to be diligent about really safe practices when we can. And it's not easy for anyone along the way. I think everybody's going through it, but we just make the most of it and try not to sweat every little detail, and really try and just make good decisions along the way. And if something comes up, we roll with it, and we're flexible, and we make things, try and make things work as best we can. We're lucky we have an athletic director that really kind of supports us in a lot of ways and helps us through it, and the nurses here in the schools and everybody else. It's really a good team helping out, and the test and stay has been helpful. All of those things help contribute to trying to get through all of this and make it the best experience we can, given it. We know it's there, so we're just trying to make a good experience out of it.
Absolutely, and as well as for the players, but for the students as well that are able to come and watch and enjoy the time overall.
Exactly.
And are those students allowed back in the rinks?
They are. So the rink, last year, we weren't able to have any fans until late in the season. This year, we were allowed to have fans. They wear masks into the game. We've had a good fan base. Hockey always brings a good fan base. It can get a little rowdy, and they enjoy the game, and it really makes for a good atmosphere. But the fan base has been pretty good, and certainly we've had families and students at the games this year.
And when will the next game be held?
Next game is on Wednesday, tomorrow, which is 126 against Somerset, and that game is in Fall River against Somerset, which is a very good team in the South Coast Conference. They're like 8-1 right now, so it should be a real good challenge going up against them.
So everyone at home, please go support the Dartmouth High School hockey team. Can't wait to see some of their future expanses, and I can't wait to have you on the show again, Mr. Cappello.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
let's take a look at the interview I had with former coach and teacher, Mr. Gaspar. Welcome back. Today on the show, I'm very lucky to have Mr. Gaspar, former coach of the basketball team, as well as gym teacher here at the Dartmouth High School. How are you today, Mr. Gaspar?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Mr. Gaspar, you are known in Dartmouth as somewhat of a local legend. So, could you kind of explain your legacy through the high school, what you did prior to your retirement, and what you've kind of been doing to keep up with it now?
Yeah, okay. I started, graduated from this high school late 60s, 68, and then I went to college. Well, back then it was UMass, it was Boston State, but now it's UMass Boston. So when I graduated and I was playing basketball in college, I met this gentleman who coached, Pete Gaudette, was the coach here, and he had me, if they were playing teams around Boston, I would go scout. If there was a game and I didn't have a game, I didn't have practice, I would go scout. Then when I graduated from college, I volunteered here for a couple of years because it wasn't a teaching job, but I still coached. And him and I became very friendly. In fact, Pete, in 1975, left here, and Paul Espinola took over. But Pete actually went on and coached with Coach K, the Duke coach, the Duke basketball coach, at West Point, and then both of them moved on to Duke. So I started coaching and officially coaching in 1975 under Paul Espinola. Paul Espinola was a great coach, great X's and O man. And I started off freshman, then I moved up to JVs, and then I went to varsity. And I coached varsity for 28 years. And I, retired in 2009. That's when I retired from teaching. But I was health and phys ed here for 28 years, and it was, my wife and I started the after prom, and we started that in the mid-90s, around 94, 95, and we did it for 24 years, and the superintendent back then was Dr. Kelly, and he called the after prom the most important event in this school, because, for many reasons, because it affected students, parents, it was all volunteers. Parents, they raised the money, they helped, that night beforehand, we had to say, it took a year to plan. Teachers volunteered, all the teachers were involved, everyone was involved. Administrators, like people like Mr. Martin would stay all night. Back then it was Mr. King was the principal, then it became Mrs. Demery. Okay, school committee was involved. John Newton, who was on the school committee back then, he would stay all night. And in fact, at 6 o'clock in the morning when we were cleaning up, he would bring all the food that was donated, that was left over, he would bring it down to the homeless center downtown. So nothing went to waste. But like I said, everything was donated. And last but not least, the administrators, the superintendent donated, they were here all night. Dr. Kelly, Dr. Russell, so it was a community effort that we put on, and we did that for 24 years.
So really, your impact here at the high school is a lasting one. We see your effects in the basketball team. You said prior that you actually go in to kind of give them talks sometimes.
Yes.
And as well as that, having this after prom, which is truly such an important event for our seniors, is really an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, it's too bad it had to stop because of, what's going on now in today's society. But hopefully someone will take it on. My wife and I would be glad to help help them get it going again, because it's a year planning process. And we enjoyed it. It would be from 11:30 to 5 in the morning. We'd have all kinds of inflatables, 6 or 8. It depends how many we could fit in the gym. Like I said, everything was donated, food, money, everything. Everything was donated. And then about 3:30, we'd get a hypnotist or some kind of show. Frank Santos did it for years, and the kids loved it. Students loved it. And a hypnotist being hypnotized, he'd pick like 10, 15 students to be hypnotized, and we'd give raffle prizes out at the end. When we first started, we said donate a car. But then after like 10, 12 years, we had trouble finding someone to donate a car.
Yeah.
But, and they didn't mind. They kept coming. And we would have 400 or 500 kids in that gym all night long.
So it's really amazing to see that because, going from the beginnings of the Dartmouth High School to now, it's obviously changed over time, but
Yeah.
that's definitely added an impact and a reason why the seniors want to continue to the end of their school year. So back to a little about your basketball career.
Okay.
Recently, the school committee has honored you with the title of naming the gym's basketball court after you. And you know, you being a coach here for over 20 years, how would you say that you kind of took that information in?
Well, I didn't know anything about it until Monday night. You know, when the school committee, Coach Granfield called me up and asked me to come and speak to the team. He does that every now and then. He has guest speakers. Then he says, "Come on, we're going to go to a school committee meeting." And I'm saying to myself, "Why do I have to go to a school committee meeting?" So then on the way, that's when he informed me, and I was like shocked, because I didn't put put any baskets in the hoop. I didn't get any rebounds or any steals. I just guided these players, put them in the right spot. They're the ones that did all the work. I just guided them. But I don't know how it started. You asked me, when is it? I don't know how it started. I don't know who brought it up, but I'm forever thankful for that group who was on the committee. I know they said it was a committee that voted this. I like to thank them, but I don't know who first initiated it because I didn't know anything about it.
Well, actually, last year, Mr. Granfield sent me a letter asking that you receive a special award for everything that you've done for Dartmouth. That award is to name the basketball court after you in the Carlin Lynch Activity Center. We then proceeded to have a naming committee come forth. We had members of the community meet with us, with Mr. Oliver and myself.
It was 9 of us. We
Nine
met
of
last
us.
week.
And we met, and before we were able to say about 2 words, this committee of past coaches, current coaches of all
Past
different sports,
Past administrators.
alumni, community members came forward overwhelmingly and spoke praises about you and the work that you've done for Dartmouth and the students and families of Dartmouth. So tonight, this committee has just voted to name the basketball court in the Carlin Lynch Activity Center after you, Mr. Gaspar, and I know your team is very proud of that. You'll be able to speak, of course. I'm sorry to throw this on you, but we will then have a special ceremony at one of the upcoming home games and be able to make that tribute to you with, of course, Mr. Granfield's speaking at that night.
Your lasting legacy, however, though, moving on, even if you decide to move away from the high school, you'd still, be here in a way with us, celebrating your 20 years. And as you said, you may not have been in the court doing the work, but you were kind of the head over it all. And, speaking with my parents as well, they knew you, had you as a teacher. So you definitely impacted almost thousands of Dartmouth students and parents' lives.
Well, when I first started teaching in 1975, Mr. Lynch, who was the AD back then, a great AD, he said to me, "I don't care about X's and O's. I don't care about wins and losses, but you're going to have an impact on these young men and women. Maybe how small it would be, but you're going to have some kind of impact." And now I look back and I says, this is what he meant. 30, 40 years later, you see him on the court. I just saw a player that played for me the other day, and he never forgot, the fun we had in practice. He remember that day we did this, remember that day, So it was an impact, but back then, I didn't realize I was doing it because I was doing something I loved. This is what I always wanted to do, and it just turned out this way.
Would you say it kind of felt a little bit less like work and more like, almost like fun in a way?
It wasn't. To me, it wasn't work. It was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being with them. If we'd practice 6 to 8, they'd stay like 9:30. They'd be still shooting, because someone wanted to be here. And it wasn't just, players on the floor, like you're helping players after. I remember a gentleman who, we finished practice one day. This was late 90s, finished practice, and he was sitting in the hallway. And I says, what's the matter? He says, I don't want to go home. And I'm saying, what are you talking about? And he says, because there's no food on the table. And things like that, you never realize. So right away, I got a hold of Mr. King. He arranged for it. And things like that, little things like that, when you help an individual, that's where you feel, good about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, once again, going back to your legacy, Dartmouth students and parents and administration, committee members, you will not be forgotten. So I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today. And please, for the folks at home, stay tuned for the ceremony, which I'm suspecting will be live streamed. It will be a fantastic celebration. And once again, thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to be a teacher coach here.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Ryanology. I'd like to thank both Mr. Cappello and Mr. Gaspar for being on the show today. Please stay tuned for our newest episode in the next following weeks, in which I interview Mrs. Chamberlain about her recent experiences about teaching Spanish in our own Dartmouth elementary schools. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, as well as the notification icon so you can always get notified whenever DHS TV Media posts. Thank you.